Ms. Eva Chung and Ms. Kat de la Cruz. So a little bit about them, starting with Eva. Eva is a registered social worker under the Ontario College of Social Workers and Social Service Workers and the Ontario Association of Social Workers. She has a Bachelor of Social Work, Master of Critical Disabilities, and Master of Social Work at York University. She has worked with a variety of groups from children, youth, people with disabilities, and seniors. She is currently working at Parkview Long-Term Care. She has also worked at Care First Seniors as a community social worker. Kat is a recent Bachelor of Social Work graduate from York University, and she is now a youth development worker at Pathways to Education program. Since doing her community hours in high school, she has been working with the youth population in different settings, whether it be in a classroom, recreational program, or just being a caseworker. So as I mentioned earlier, I will be interviewing them in the later portion of the presentation. So here are just some workshop objectives or some things I hope you take away from this presentation. Firstly, I hope you get an understanding of what social work is and what social workers do. Secondly, I hope you understand the steps to becoming a social worker. And thirdly, hopefully be inspired from the workshop to potentially pursue a career in social work. This will also be supplemented by firsthand experiences from those who have tread that path before. So before I dive deep into the main content of the presentation, I just want to get a general grasp of your understanding of social work. So I want to pose a quick poll amongst you all with the question, how familiar are you guys with the field of social work? So I'll just launch this poll right now. I'll give you a couple seconds to answer up this question. We have a lot of participants tonight, so they're all just responding at the moment. Give it a couple more seconds. All right, I think this is pretty good. I'll end the poll right here. Share the results with you guys. So I can see that most of you here have some knowledge of social workers, and some of you are also quite knowledgeable of the social workers. That's great. Hopefully I can further build on whatever knowledge you already have. And for those who are somewhat familiar, hopefully this workshop can also add any existing knowledge to the already existing knowledge that you guys already have. All right, stop sharing that. And let's get started. So to start, I should probably introduce what social work is. So one great starting point to find out is through the National Occupational Classification Code, or the NOC. So the NOC is Canada's system in organizing jobs. It collects data from the numerous fields of employment and provides critical information about each job. So if you were to look this up on your own, the code for social workers under this system is 41300. The following information is based on the NOC 2021 database. And according to the database, the main duties for social workers include interviewing and assessing clients' situations and determining the type of services required, providing counseling and therapy to clients to help them resolve their personal and social problems. Social workers will also respond to social needs and issues of not just clients, but society as well. So issues such as unemployment, racism, poverty, just to name a few. They also refer clients to relevant agencies who are specialized in the area that the client may need services or treatment in. So stuff like financial aid, legal aid, housing, medical treatment, and many others. Now, for those who may be wondering, how do you become a social worker? Well, that primarily starts with schooling. So there are 3 paths to becoming a social worker, either through a social service work diploma, a bachelor of social work, or a master of social work. So this slide might seem a little misleading, causing you to think that you have to start from the diploma, then work to the bachelor, then to the master's. But that is not actually the case. You can actually start at any position you like. But do note that the Master of Social Work degree program has stricter requirements to get started, such as needing a bachelor degree of some sort. But all 3 options, however, do lead to the world of social work. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, what's the difference between a social worker and a social service worker? Well, they actually do very similar work, but there are some differences. The most obvious difference would probably be in its title, as you can see, social worker versus social service worker. Also, the entry to practice is very different. One requires an undergraduate degree, the other is just a diploma. Furthermore, the scopes of practice also differs. So social workers focus on collaborating with their clients to address challenges through a process of assessment, treatment, and evaluation. Whereas social service workers, on the other hand, focus on assisting clients in dealing with personal and social problems by delivering counseling, community services, and social support programs. So the biggest difference is that social workers can conduct assessments, whereas social service workers mainly focus on providing assistance. So to start off with, let's start with the social service worker diploma. This is just the diploma. So the most basic requirement would to have a high school diploma with at least a grade 12 English course completed. There is also an English language proficiency test component, and note that this is only for those whose English isn't their primary language or they attended a non-English high school, non-English primarily taught high school. As you see on the slide here, there are some examples of proficiency tests, English proficiency tests, but there are others, so make sure you go check out the colleges individually for more details. Moving on to some BSW requirements. So BSW programs will be about 3 to 4 years long. And as you can see on the screen there are various requirements in applying for a BSW. The information I have on the screen here is an accumulation of requirements from various universities that you can apply through the OUAC. So such as TMU, York University, Waterloo, Griffith Laurier, McMaster, and various others. So to begin with, you have to, it requires at least 1 to 2 years of university to have been completed. There aren't many programs that allow students to directly jump into social work, thus requiring at least a year or two of university to have already been completed. There are even some that require a fully completed university degree, so Bachelor of Arts, that kind of stuff, so, like at Waterloo. So what usually happens, you would start by applying to the social sciences division to start off with, and that's where the school will ask you to maintain a GPA of a B or a 70% or higher, and then that's when you apply for the BSW. It is also during this time that the universities will require you to complete some prerequisite courses to prepare you for the program. Next would be personal statements. So this is pretty standard. So the personal statement is pretty standard, asking why do you want to join this university? And some may even have additional essays asking you to describe a social issue and what social work means to you, and stuff like that. So I see we have a question here asking Seneca has a transfer option after you graduate with your social service work diploma to do into your work to your BSW. So yes, that is true. So there are, I will get to that in the next slides, but there are, to answer the question now, there are some transfer programs where you can transfer some credits, and there are also some programs that actually have a fast track option. So if you have a social service worker diploma, in certain cases, you can just jump directly into the 3rd or 2nd year of this program. Just continuing on with this slide. So obviously there's a resume, and this is pretty standard. So it's like a snapshot of you, your education, and your experiences. And then there's some references. So these are references, can be volunteer experiences, usually universities would request either for an academic or professional references. Work experience doesn't necessarily have to be paid work. It can be unpaid work, and they can also be volunteer experiences. So for some universities, this isn't mandatory, but it would definitely boost your application. Then again, with the English language proficiency test, that's very similar to the previous slide for the social service worker diploma, same things apply. I do want to stress that all the requirements you see here are university dependent. So some universities might require references and personal statement and everything you see here, but some may not. Some may not require references. Some may not require work experience. So it is important that you do go to the university website itself to look for the admission requirements. So here are some special circumstances. So as I mentioned earlier, if you do have a social service worker diploma, you can transfer some credits into your new degree. That way you can take less courses. And there are also some fast track course options, such as at Waterloo and TMU. If you have a social service worker diploma, you can just jump, as I said, jump right into, skip directly into the 2nd or 3rd year without reading those prerequisite courses. If you don't have if they don't have those kind of fast track courses, then obviously they have probably some sort of transferring credits options that way you can take less credits. Though again, this is university dependent. So it may, so how many credits apply per course depends on the university itself. For those who might be a mature student, to qualify as a mature student at these various universities, you have to be at least 20 years or older, and you must have at least a minimum of 2 years out of schooling, so whether it be university, college, or high school. For those who don't want to take these courses in person and want an online option, there is one, but it is focused on Indigenous social work. So this option is at Laurentian, and so as I said, they offer an Indigenous social work degree that can be completed online. So this degree is mostly focused on helping you work better with Indigenous population, learning more about Indigenous practices and theories. And for those wondering, U of T doesn't offer a BSW program, but they do offer an MSW one. So moving on to the MSW, there are two options. So there is a regular track and there's an advanced track. So regular track is for those who don't have a BSW, but they do have a similar degree, something such as psychology, sociology, political science, education, just to name a few. So as I mentioned earlier, with the first slide with 3 different paths you can take, you can just jump directly into the MSW as you would be put in the regular track. However, you would have to have a degree of some sort that's similar to the social work program, as that would definitely benefit you when you're in this program. So for the regular track, this would typically be a 2-year-long program, and it would be full-time. As for the second option, the second track, it would be the advanced track. And this is for those that have a BSW. And the BSW must come from a CASWE accredited program. The CASWE stands for the Canadian Association of Social Worker Education. And this is the organization that certifies social work programs in Canada. This would typically be a 10 to 12-month program, and you can have the option to attend it full-time or part-time. As to be expected, there are less courses you would have to take when going through this advanced track because you would have already done similar courses during your BSW. So what are the requirements to apply for this program? Well, some things you would have to set, some documents you have to provide for both the regular track and the advanced track are pretty simple. First, the resume, statement of interest, those are pretty similar to the requirements needed for the Bachelor of Social Work degree. Then there's also references. This part is a bit more specific in what they require. This part, they ask for 1 academic and 2 non-academic references. Then there's also some supplemental forms, which is pretty standard, some like additional essays, that kind of stuff. Then there's also the research methods course and the statistics courses. These are some prerequisite courses that some universities might require. So these are necessary because the amount of research that you will do during your master's degree is incomparable to what the research you've conducted during your bachelor degree. And this also helps with understanding research and interpreting other forms of data. If you haven't done these prerequisite courses, they do provide you a conditional offer to complete these courses. And here again, we have some online options for those who aren't, if going in person isn't possible. So first we have Wilfrid Laurier, which offers a blended option. So yes, you do still have to go in person. And then Waterloo also offers a primarily online program. So they have, I think, about 1 course where they have to go in person once a week or something like that. Windsor also offers an online program for those who have working jobs, and this would primarily occur on the weekends. So here on this slide here, are some types of courses that the 3 different programs offer. I have generalized them as they all offer similar topics. So firstly, we have interpersonal communications. So this pretty much teaches students how to interact and communicate with clients. You will mainly see this within the social service worker diploma and the bachelor degree programs. Then we have diversity and perspective courses. So stuff like Indigenous perspectives or feminist perspectives. There is a popular trend to study Indigenous history and ideas and incorporating them into modern social work nowadays. Of course, there's also the social policy courses. So courses such as welfare and change, marginalization, theories of social work. Quick disclaimer though, if you do want to go down this path, there is a lot of policy studying, so do be prepared for that. Next would be social practice. So this is working with different groups. social practice working with elderly, with families, with youth, et cetera, et cetera. Then there's also mental health topics, so stuff such as substance abuse and addictions. These can come up in this category. Family dynamics has courses like child welfare, family balance, so a bunch of different courses with the core topic being family-based. Then there's also social work research, and these types of courses focuses on learning how to do research in social work. And finally, there is the practicum or field placement. So practicum is actually a very important part of the education process. The practicum is a chance for students to integrate social work theories that they learn in the classroom, so theories such as strength-based approaches, and applying that into practice. So this would help smoothen the transition from classroom to real world. So the hours are for practicum differ depending on the program you're in. So as you can see on the screen. So for the diploma, it's about 600 or more hours. BSW is about 700 plus, and then MSW is 400 plus. So these are all, again, all general for different universities. Different universities have more specific numbers. If you want to take a look at that, you would have to go to the university itself on their practicum page to take a look at that. So the process for getting practicum is actually very similar to finding a job in real life. So you have to require cover letters, resumes, and maybe even references. So schools may have certain affiliations with certain organizations that they may push during recruitment time. This is overall a very competitive process. And if you are struggling to find something, you can turn to school to help you to connect you with something, but the school doesn't outright give you a job. Another very important aspect is volunteering. For some schools, it may be mandatory in their first year, and others it may be encouraged. So it is actually strongly encouraged to take upon these volunteer opportunities. There are various benefits that you can take away from this. So firstly, it provides a different form of hands-on experience than what you experience in classes. And the volunteering experience can also help with applying for the MSW. If you are certain about which population you like to work with, this is a chance to strengthen your resume and your experiences. Or if you aren't certain which population you like to work with, this could be the perfect opportunity to work with different populations. For example, do you want to work with children? Then an example organization to volunteer at would be the Children Aid Society. Do you want to work with people living with mental illnesses and addictions? Then an example organization you can work at would be the Geneva Center for Autism. So you take this chance to, if you don't know your interests, where your interests lie, then don't be afraid to explore different paths. So you would allocate short-term commitments with different interests to explore your passion. So don't stick to a single population. Try to work with organizations that focus on seniors. Then you move on to an organization that focuses on students, and then one that focuses on people with disability and that kind of stuff. And when you're applying for jobs, many jobs actually do care a lot about practical experience, and that mainly comes in the form of practicums and volunteering. So do be sure to take advantage of this. Take this time to figure out what population you like working with. This helps you focus up on a certain pathway. So volunteering and practicum, there are many similarities when you're such as entering an organization and you start working for them or volunteering for them, but there are also some differences. The main difference would be the grading aspect. So practicum is a lot more formal, where they evaluate the work and efforts of the student, and the grading system's on a pass-fail, so you don't have to stretch too much about it on a satisfactory or non-satisfactory grading system as well. Volunteering, on the other hand, is just a chance to do the work without stressing about worrying about the performance. You really take this time, just to reiterate, take this time to figure out what your interests are and where they lie, and then that helps you focus up again on a career path, and that way you won't be spending your time working on everything when you could really be focusing on one thing. So now we move on to the career portion of the workshop. Here I will be providing some basic stats of social work, just to give you some idea of just to give you some basic ideas of a landscape of the career in social work. Then I plan on giving you some suggestions of what to do when starting out. So again, this is just a quick refresher of what social workers' main duties are. So they interview and assess clients and situations, provide counseling and therapy to clients. They respond to social needs and issues, refer clients to relevant agencies, that kind of stuff. There are more duties that they perform, but these are just the ones that I have grouped as some things I've noticed that they perform quite often. So the stats that I'm about to give you are from Job Bank. It's a government site where you can look for jobs and explore market trends. So the stats that I'm about to present are based on the NOC 2016 database. So let's start with education. So those who have a high school diploma, those without a high school diploma, or those with a trade certificate, each of these categories is less than 5% of people are within this category. And as you see on the screen here, those with a social service workers diploma is about 19%, those with a BSW is about 35%, and MSW is 42%. For the gender ratio here, it's about 84% women, while 16% men. So the women vastly outnumber the men in this profession. For wages, these are more current. They were updated on November 16th, 2022. So the average wage for social workers in Canada is about $36 an hour. And this equates to about a salary of $75K a year. For Ontario specifically, the average wage is about $35.90 per hour. So the yearly salary is about the same. Similarly here for social service worker wages, the stats were updated on November 16th, 2022 as well. The average wage for in Ontario for social service workers is about $25.50 an hour, which is about a $50K a year salary. And then compared to the Canadian average, which is actually slightly lower, of a $23.50 per hour, which is about $45K a year. So now that you've graduated and you've gotten your degree, what do you do after that? So here is just a suggested path that you can take when you've gotten your degree. To start with, you would probably register with the Ontario College of Social Workers and Social Service Workers. Then this is a completely optional step. You can join the Association of Social Workers and the Canadian Association of Social Workers. And when you're finally looking for a job, be sure to follow your interests. Find out what specific vulnerable population that you enjoy working with and pursue that. So the next couple slides just dissect each point further. So in order to call yourself a social worker, you must register with the Ontario College of Social Workers and Social Service Workers. This organization is the organization that regulates social workers and social service workers. However, do note that if you do not plan on working as a social worker or a social service worker in Ontario, you don't need to apply to this organization. Rather, you should apply to the regulatory body in the province or territory that you plan on working in. There are some requirements to applying. Firstly, you must have the right credentials, so whether it be the diploma, the BSW, or the MSW. Then there's an application fee you have to pay. So for those who apply the same year that they graduate, they can pay the student fee, which is about $360 for the application fee. Otherwise, you would pay the general fee of about $460 instead. You must also send in your transcript to verify that you have said degree. Registering with this organization will allow you to call yourself a registered social worker, a registered social service worker, and a social service worker. It is illegal to call yourself a social worker or represent yourself as one to clients or any of these titles if you haven't registered with this organization. So I'm just gonna quickly put the link to the application in the chat if any of you guys are curious, or maybe are curious where you can apply. And then, so this is for those who have a social worker degree outside of Canada. So in order to become a social worker in Canada, you will have to get your credentials evaluated. And for that, you would have to apply here. So I'm putting into the chat another link, which is for international assessment for your credentials. So there are various documents that you have to send to the Canadian Association of Social Workers, or the CASW. So firstly is a verification form. And this is the form that the dean or director of social work at your institution must fill out to verify that you did attend that institution. Next would be the official transcript. So that includes all courses taken, all your grades, and all the credits. And this is the official transcript would be for your primary degree. And a primary degree in this case would be the highest level of professional social work education completed by you. So if you have an MSW or PhD even in social work, that's the transcript you would send. You would not be sending in your BSW if you have done BSW in the past. Next would be the application form. So this is just a general form about you, like putting your name, the date, academic background, and reasons for why you want your degree to be evaluated. Some other things you have to put in are the course description and practicum description. So these are just to explain the courses and practicum you took for the evaluators to understand, to greater understand your courses. And the information from this should be from the syllabus or any sort of other official document. The application fee for this is $395. I just want to let you guys know. And then for the secondary credentials and supporting documents, these are documents you do not have to send in, and you only have to send them in if they apply to you. So what are they? So for the secondary credentials, this is any post-secondary education completed by you prior to the completion of the highest level of social work education. So for those who have a master's in social work, you would have to send in your bachelor degree, and maybe even your Bachelor of Arts or undergraduate degree from the university if you didn't directly go into a BSW. Next, for supporting documents, that might be a social service work diploma if you have that. If you were a member in a different social worker organization, professional social work organization, then you would have to show that as well. If you ever change your name, you have to send that in as well. If you ever wrote a thesis or any major paper research, then you would have to send in a copy of the title and abstract of that thesis. Furthermore, there's also a document checklist for you. So this is a personal checklist just for you to like tick off if you've sent in every single document required. And if everything is good, then you will be issued a general certificate of registration of social work. And then you would be able to apply to the regulatory body in Ontario or whatever regulatory body in the other province you plan on working on. So this next step, both this step and the step after, they're completely optional. You do not have to do it if you don't want to, though it is highly, but for the regulatory body, it is highly recommended you do so. So the Ontario Association of Social Workers, Social Work is a professional association. This is different from the Ontario College of Social Workers and Social Service Workers, and that one is a regulatory body. But this one is a professional association, and it has many benefits to it. So firstly, there's various insurance plans. They have professional liability insurance, home and auto insurance, medical and dental insurance, as well as various discounts at different places, such as Good Life, Rent a Car, et cetera, et cetera. They also post job opportunities, so they provide job search support. There's also professional development opportunities. So the OASW Learning Center provides many opportunities for personal development, professional development, and just overall growth. And finally, they have many networking events. So there's a chance for you to meet others in the field and make new connections. You do not have to be a registered social worker, or in other words, you do not have to apply to the OCSW, SSW to join this organization, as long as you have a degree from a CASWE accredited program. Again, the CASW, you do not have to join this. It's not a mandatory, it is totally optional, up to you. So the CASW is the National Association for Social Workers in Canada, and it has 3 pillars. Firstly, there's promoting the profession, which is increasing outreach and awareness of the importance of social work. Second would be strategic advocacy, which is prioritizing certain goals to help Canadians thrive in a post-pandemic economy. Thirdly would be strengthening the profession, so including more alliances into the CASW and enhancing the code of ethics. Some various benefits you can get from this are webinars for a chance for continued education, networking events, so such as the social worker peer-to-peer support group, and you can connect with people just beyond just Ontario and to those across Canada. Job opportunities very similar to the OASW. And finally, the CASW is home to the code of ethics, and this is very important. Oh, sorry about that. I was clicking on the wrong thing. So yeah, the CASW, this is the slide that I was talking about recently. Code of ethics, this is also very important. So the code of ethics contains the values and principles that guide social workers' professional behavior. There are 6 core values, and they are the 6 that you can see on the screen here. So firstly, there's respect for inherent dignity and worth of persons. And this speaks to being a respectful of other people and respecting them as a person and their rights to beliefs. Second is pursuit of social justice. And this is believing in people to provide for the overall benefit of humanity and to protect them from harm. Third would be service to humanity, which is placing needs of others before yours in a professional capacity. The fourth is integrity, and some key traits for this value are honesty, reliability, impartiality, diligence, openness, and transparency. So diligently following the values and codes and principles of this code. Fifth is confidentiality, which is respecting the trust and confidence clients place in you as a social worker. Sixth is competence, so providing the highest quality service you can to your clients. So these are 6 key values to remember when following this career. I guess probably the most important takeaway from this for those who are aspiring or thinking about working in a career in social work is to follow your interests. A very important question to ask yourself is, which population do you like working with? Do you like working with youth, seniors, people living with mental illnesses and addictions, students, child and family services, newcomers? What you see here on this slide is not an exhaustive list. There are more populations you can choose to work with. And the next couple of slides, I'll just give you some examples of some roles you might have with certain populations. So let's start with the youth. An example, you might be working in some youth centers, service centers, or agencies. And some roles and responsibilities you might have are providing employment programs. So these are to help the youth find jobs and give them volunteer experiences. There's also maybe you might be doing one-on-one case management. So this can be for a variety of things: personal development, social skills, employability skills, that kind of stuff. And an example organization would be to work at would be 360 Degrees Kid, which is a nonprofit youth service organization. And so for the next couple of slides, you'll see a bunch of organizations I have on the slides, but they're all just examples. There are other ones that you can reach out to and look for to work at. So for seniors, common settings would be long-term care homes and senior home care. Some roles and responsibilities for this would be conducting need assessments and care plans. So this would be according to the seniors' physical and mental status. And then you would also provide community programs and services. So this is, for example, transportation, the programs such as, for example, Meals on Wheels, to help those who can't leave the house get groceries by delivering to them. We'll also be providing online workshops about senior abuse and fall prevention. Next would be people with working with people living with mental illnesses and addictions. Common settings might be hospitals, mental health associations. Some roles and responsibilities you might have for this are conducting one-on-one case management, so helping them through any troubles they might have, designing and delivering group programs for recovery. So you'll be working with peer supporters to provide support. And peer supporters are people who have recovered or in the process of recovering from mental illness or any addictions. And this is so that these people can help others and have someone who truly understands what they're going through. And this in turn empowers the peer supporters. So if you want to work with students, some common settings would be primary and secondary schools. Common roles and responsibilities might be conducting case management. So teaching students how to advocate for themselves and how to connect them to the community. And then they would also provide educational workshops, so public information sessions that can apply to just the public in general. Next would be working with children and families. So one common setting might be child protection services. So common role and responsibilities would be child protection investigations, needing to make sure they aren't wrongly separating families, arranging for placements. So this is to make sure the necessary arrangements in the event that family separations do occur, ensuring the safety and well-being of the child, assessing the need of the children and their families. So this looks to the family dynamic as a whole, and the family service workers do their best to ensure that the family is doing well. And then finally, it's implementing service plans for children and their families. So after assessing the needs, you would put into action the plans you have made during the assessments, whether it be through counseling and therapy or through making referrals to other agencies that are better suited to help. And finally, we have newcomers. So if you want to work with newcomers, common settings would be newcomer centers or community organizations. Some roles and responsibilities you might have are assessing settlement needs. So immigrants all have different needs and priorities. So assessing their needs is important. You can help them integrate into society and help them with employment. You would also make referrals and provide community resources and social services. So this is providing clients with alternative resources so that they can have other places to look for assistance, something else to fall back on. And finally, designing group programs. So this might be providing ESL classes and employment programs. maybe for helping with job searching, interviewing skills, resume writing. So as I mentioned before, all this part is that these aren't the only populations that you can work with. There are others. You can work with people, you can work with persons with learning disabilities. You can work in correctional facilities, or maybe you might even work in private practice. So now it's time for our guest speakers to take the main stage. So I'd like to invite our two guest speakers, and I'll just be throwing out some questions, having a casual conversation with them, just to give like you guys a general sense of what life as a social worker is like, their path to becoming a social worker and all that kind of stuff. So let's start off by asking why. Like, Eva, Kat, why did you guys choose to social work as your profession? What led you to this path? Either one of you could start first, totally optional. Yeah.
So I can go first. So I chose social work because like I knew I wanted to be in a field where I was like helping people. So social work stood out to me because it's like one of the professions where I could work with people like one-on-one. And I did consider in the past like to be a teacher because I do and I still want to like help youth and young people. But social work stood out more to me because I can still help kids, but as like a caseload where I can work and interact with them on like one-to-one settings.
For me, it's actually pretty similar to Kat, but then so at first, when I first chose social work, because guess I was born in Hong Kong, and then in Hong Kong we have social worker in the school. They would travel into different school and do different programs. So I wanted to be a social worker, but then at the end I choose different field to not working with youth but seniors. I think as a social work is a meaningful job. It's not about money at all. It's just something that you have to be really passionate to do instead of like keep thinking about earning money. If you want to earn money, I would say that you shouldn't pick social work.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. This is definitely a job that like you like working with people, you like making a difference in the community, that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
All right. So this brings me to my next question, or how did you guys? So schooling is never easy, but I was wondering what were some challenges that you had when you were obtaining your degrees?
So I could start.
Sure.
I graduated last year of October 2022. So I graduated pretty recently, in my opinion. And my biggest challenge was the transition between like in-person learning to suddenly being online due to COVID. Like everything was very rushed, especially like I remember I remember like March like 2020 when like our like pandemic lockdowns had started. I felt like it was like hard to make like connections through a screen as well as like through online learning. I felt like I didn't really retain or understand information as well as I could if I were to learn in person. But you know, the world doesn't stop for anyone, so we have to keep moving forward and make steps and actions to get yourself where you want to be.
For me, actually, when I did my degree back, I was class of 2018 when I finished my Bachelor of Social Work. I didn't really find it too hard. I went through a 4-year program at York. For my Master of Social Work, it's a bit different because I did it kind of in the COVID, similar to what Kat said. So I would say it was kind of hard for me to find a placement. So I ended up doing a placement at where I used to work. And then in challenging in my master degree would be working while doing my placement together and doing the degree together too. So I was doing part-time Master of Social Work at York University, like a two-year program. So I chose to work full-time and then do my master part-time and then do my placement together. It's like all of the workload together. It was kind of hard for me, but then yeah, I did it. So I would say it's really like rewarding after you finish the master degree.
Yeah, but that would make sense. I can't imagine both working and then placement and all that stuff. Like that just sounds rough, to say the least. So this question is mostly for Kat, as she is a more recent graduate. But if Eva, if you have anything to chime into, feel free to. So for Kat, I was wondering, what were some challenges in getting your first social work job in your preferred field? Like, how difficult was it? And then I guess for Eva too, like after, because of COVID placements and all that, how difficult was that as well for you guys?
Mhm. So my current job right now is actually where I did my practicum. So, um, even to apply for this like job title, which is like the youth development worker, it was like a really hard interview process in my opinion, because they asked like questions I didn't know would be, I guess, related to the job position, as well as such as like the knowledge of the area that my clients are living in and the effects of living in this environment of area, because our clients are underprivileged or disadvantaged like kids who live in this specific area. We target these clients. And I actually recently did another interview to try to extend my contract. So they also asked like a different set of questions that really challenged on what I would do and what knowledge I could bring to the table. All in all, like it really like opened my eyes. I really kind of need to like extend my expertise, because I know like I recently kind of like graduated and this is like my first social work job, but it really like led me to think that like I need to like build my knowledge and thinking on areas that are not really directly affecting my clients, but still having like a big impact on their well-being.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yeah, Eva, do you have anything to add?
For me, I didn't get the job where I did my placement, but then the first social worker job that I got is actually where I used to work. So I used to be the program worker at the adult day program, and I applied the social worker position, and then I get the job. So it's pretty much like once you get some experience in the field and the organization, the people, they know you, and then they will get you, like they would offer you a job like that.
So I guess it wasn't, would you say it was really difficult? It wasn't that difficult to get a job like after graduating, or?
I will say not that for me, because I've been working in the field for a while. Because before I got my MSW, I already got my MA in disability, and then I got my bachelor first, so it's a bit easier for me. But then I'll
Right.
say now, even if you want to get an MSW and get a job after, it will be a bit harder than before because of the COVID and yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Kat, anything to add? No? It's all good, you don't go.
I'm good.
All right, cool. Well, we'll just move on. So I guess this focuses back to schooling. So I know I said that practicum is like a chance for you to explore, to smooth the transition, to apply your knowledge from classroom to the real world. But I want to know like the actual experiences. How was your practicum? Like, what sort of things did you guys do during the practicum? Because there's only so much you can learn from reading about it on like a manual from like one of the from the school websites.
Mhm. Like I mentioned earlier, I did my practicum where I'm currently working right now, which is like the Pathways to Education. It was also during a time during COVID, so my interactions with clients were like very limited due to like health and safety protocols. So while placement students or practicum students were not allowed to go to schools and interact with clients, the youth development workers were allowed, because they have to do their jobs. But for us, we had to like stay in the office, and even to have clients come into the office for like appointments is very limited as well. What we can do. Also, to adapt to the pandemic, we had to resort to like online platforms such as like using Zoom to help assist with mentoring and tutoring programs, which is what we also offer to clients like after school. And for having like one-on-one chats or like check-ins with clients, we have to like speak on the phone, checking in on their like academic progress, updating on their like academic goals or social goals or employment career goals that they had, and just checking up on their well-being in general and how we can like help and assist them. For practicum students specifically, every year our final project was to create like a career fair for students to come and talk to professionals of different like job prospects to see what their day-to-day life is, asking them what their about their qualifications and so forth. So similar to what David's doing right now, you know, showcasing the world of social work. And for that, we did like a lot of outreach to different professionals and a lot of like organization and like putting together to have these professionals come. Well, for us, it was online, but this year they had the chance to, for the professionals to come in person to connect with the students and like give them like their knowledge and expertise.
Mm,
Mhm.
nice, nice.
For my placement, so I did my Master of Social Work placement at Alzheimer's Society of York Region. I mainly do caregiver counseling and caregiver support group for caregivers. I kind of help them facilitate the caregiver support group, and I also have a caseload that I have to manage to do caregiver counseling. So I'll check with the caregiver who have a person with dementia, like who take care of a person with dementia mainly or Alzheimer. To talk about what they struggle daily or what kind of service that they need. So the Alzheimer's Society of York Region, you earlier referred it to Alzheimer's Society of Canada, and so they have different kind of different branches. Alzheimer's Society of York Regions, they offer day program. Toronto also offer day program and also different kind of education workshop for the public to join, and they also offer different kind of caregiver support group. That's what I was doing in my placement, but mainly it's like caregiver counseling in general and public education stuff too.
I guess just a follow-up question I have is like, how stressful was this practicum or this placement stuff for you guys? Was it like a very stressful experience, or was it like, yeah, there's some stress, but it's like pretty standard kind of stuff?
I was definitely nervous at first because it's like my first experience like into like the social work world. I do have to say that if I had like any other responsibilities added on to that, then I'd be stressed. But I kind of made a decision like during my schooling or like my BSW schooling to have all like my credits and classes like be done, so I don't have to like worry about it when I start my practicum. So that really helped. I would try to recommend that to people, but it's understandable if you know you have to you still have to do some classes while you have your practicum. But yeah, I think it does help because it's also like your availability, what you can give to the organization that you're like placed with.
For me, is I would think that my Master of Social Work placement is easier than my bachelor because my bachelor already went through the 700 hours, and for master it's only like a 3 to 400, so it's like way less. And I really know what kind of like what placement I'm going to do, so it's like makes me feel a bit more comfortable about the placement. But then for people who did not do the undergrad in Bachelor of Social Work, they would have to go through the Master of Social Work placement so that they can be able to get more clinical experience while they're doing the Master of Social Work program.
I see. I guess we'll just move on to the next question then. So one thing I have been trying to emphasize during this presentation is pretty much following your interests and deciding which population you like to work with and focusing on that. So I was wondering, how did you two come upon working with or specializing what you guys are specializing now?
Oh. I'm so sorry. So I wanted to help with youth population because I don't know, I always like kind of gravitated towards like the youth and kids groups, It's also like the groups that I interacted with like the longest, like ever since starting like my high school volunteer hours. I was like working at like school, not working, volunteering at schools and like different recreational programs. But it's also, I think it's fun. I think it's fun working with these days. It's also fun to like connect with them and give them like the guidance and advice that you want to like kind of like pass on. But it's also cool to like create like a space where they can be themselves. You know, sometimes like home life or school life is like stressful or like they can't be themselves. So it's cool to like give them a space where they can foster and improve like their personal growth.
For me, it's more like I kind of miss my grandparents in Hong Kong. And I love to like work with children, and sometimes I find that like the seniors, they actually like children too. I wanted to be a youth social worker before, but I found that like as a youth right now, I'm only like 27 years old, and then I feel like I don't want to listen to anyone. It's kind of like a rebellion thing. So whenever I work with seniors, I'm more like calm myself because I'm always like so fast, like really energetic. And you can tell that I talk really fast too. Yeah, I talk.
Don't worry about it. You're all good. You're all good.
Yeah, I talk even faster when I'm talking like Chinese and when I'm like really nervous. So when I like provide my care to my seniors in the long-term care that I'm having right now, like I truly think that this is the field that I really want to go to. That's why I chose a senior instead of youth or child.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, you do you know. So I guess like a pretty good follow-up is like, what are some qualities one should have when working with your respective population? So what qualities should you have when working with youth, or what qualities should you have when working with elders or seniors?
Let's see. Oh my God, this is one of my one of my job questions or like my interview questions they asked me. I do have to say that you have to be like patient with kids because each student is going, especially like with the clients that we have, they're underprivileged and they're disadvantaged, so they come from like rough home life or they're having like financial issues, so it's good to like emphasize and know where they're coming from and also like be empathetic about that. But also it's good to be like encouraging because like these students that like face these like hardships, it's hard for them to like feel like motivated or like have any like self-esteem as well. So it's like good to like have like a lot of patience, encouragement, and like support for like specifically like as like the students that like my program's clientele is.
Okay. Yeah.
For working with seniors, I would say you have to be really passionate, knowing what you have to say with seniors. Be sensitive because sometimes something that you say may offend them, and you have to be really understanding, cheerful, empowering them because in Canada we have different kind of diversity, right? So you have to be really cautious of what you said and try not to step on the other people. But if you really do one day, you should apologize and like let them give you another chance to build a trust in the relationship.
Yeah. So like general qualities would probably be like just being a good social worker would be like being patient, encouraging, supportive, that kind of stuff, right? Just being an uplifting presence, right?
Yes.
All right. So I guess moving past schooling and jobs and everything, or just mostly focusing on jobs now, what are some things you have to deal with in the day-to-day scene? Like if you, what's a typical day? Like you walk into the office, what do you do?
I do want to say that, as Damon said before, you have to be associated with, or you have to be like associated with the Ontario College of Social Workers to be, to represent yourself as a social worker. So I'm not registered, unfortunately. I'm working my way to it though, but to represent or like to introduce myself, my title is youth development worker. So I'm basically like a youth caseworker for the students who are within our program. So during the school year, I check up with my students around like twice a month. to see like their academic progress and if they need assistance, or if I need to encourage like advocacy for them, to ask for help or be that bridge for them to ask their teachers or guidance counselors, vice principals, or principals for like accommodations that they need. Um, I also help with facilitating our mentoring and tutoring programs which happen after school, where students can touch into academic assistance and also learn about social development. I also do administrative work where I keep tabs of like students' attendance and their report cards and grades, and following up with them and how we can like improve, and what we can do better.
For me, working in long-term care, actually in long-term care, we don't really require a master of social work to be in the long-term care as a social worker. You can be a SSW. It depends on the size of the long-term care. Some smaller home, maybe like Rivera, they don't really need a master of social work to be there. So my long-term care has around 128 residents to be in. My typical day would be having different kind of meetings with family members, with the doctors, with the nurses, and then pick up phone calls, inquiry about our long-term care and giving tours, and also do some case counseling with our family member and resident who need it, and do tons of meetings with residents and the team talking about policy. So I'm also the host of the Palliative Pain and Ethics Committee in long-term care. And also I help to facilitate resident council and different kind of activities in the long-term care, and mainly also do some caregiver supporting, because in long-term care we do palliative program. So we will have to, I'm the host of the palliative care program, so I have to deliver the program. Yes, so if you're interested to work in a long-term care, basically the job like task is like this, but it's going to be so busy, because you think about in a long-term care setting, you only have one social worker, but you have to deal with every single family member and residents. Sometimes it's not like the resident, they are fine to me, even though that they have behaviors. I do receive lots of behavior referral, but we also have a BSO, we call behavioral support officer. A nurse will help you, but then it's mainly about the concern from the family member. So it's like how you work with them and make them trust the care that you have in the long-term care, and also the service that you have in the long-term care, like how you have a good relationship with them.
Mm-hmm. So it's just, for both of you guys, it's just pretty busy pretty much all the time.
So busy.
So I guess something that's preached a lot about in jobs nowadays is having time for yourself and just like, doing you. So I want to ask, like, how is a work-life balance for you guys in this, for your jobs?
Even though like I just started to work in my field, like I literally just started like this January. I think what helps me is to think that like my job is not my whole life, it's part of my life. And that's something that I've been struggling to like internalize, but it's important to remember that like you're not your job and you're so much more than that. Like your work is very important to the clients that you're working with, but you can't put in your best work if you're not checking in with yourself and asking if like you yourself are okay.
I agree. For me is I think you have to, yeah, similar to what Kat said, it's like you have to take care of yourself in order to give the service to the residents or the clients that we have, but also you have to think about the loved one that who cares about you. So like for me, my tip would be like you have to remember you always have your family members besides you if you need like to say something to them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking you to say the name of your residents or clients to them, but just general, like talk about what happened today. It really helps, like, you to, getting better in the job too, because
Yeah, for
workload
sure.
itself. And also sometimes when you do like counseling with the caregivers, you take it personal too, because sometimes you have a similar experience with them and you feel the echoing in them too. So you have to be really cautious about that part. I have a time that I would cry in front of my family member because he lost his wife, but then I would do that because he would feel that like you're really understanding him.
Yeah, I think yeah, for sure. Taking time for yourself is very important, and finding your own way to do it's definitely very important as well. Yeah. So I'm not sure if this has happened to you guys yet, or if it already has. But I was wondering, was there ever a moment in your job or practicum or just your life experience where that made you think, yeah, I'm really glad that I chose to do what I'm doing now? If there isn't, that's totally fine too. No, don't worry about it.
I mean, like currently, like where I'm working at, like it really affirmed like my choice to be in social work. Also like during like my practicum too, like where I was able to like shadow the youth development workers to see like their day-to-day life and the advice that they'd give me, and like showing me around on what they would do, how to approach things. And yeah, I don't know, I felt like talking to people, the team at that time, the team changed a lot within a year. But yeah, talking to the team at the time, like it was really like it was really cool for them to share their expertise with me. And like it really, like I aspire to be the kind of role model that they are like showing their clients.
For me, whenever I talk to the family members after someone passed away and see them and give them a hug, I have like a goosebump in my hands, and I feel that it makes me want to be like continue to be a social worker in the long-term care, because a lot of my caregivers, they are already like seniors themselves, and they still have to take care of their loved one in the long-term care. It's really heartbreaking when I see them being that. I think that everyone has their own moment or experience of like confirming themselves to choose social work to become the career. But as I mentioned earlier, if you think about money, unless you become a private counselor, you wouldn't earn the money. But at the same time, to become a successful private counselor, like doing private practice like counseling, you have to understand what your clients have been through, and you have to have really good clinical techniques to do so. Those jobs are like so hard, like brain draining. It's like I'm really okay with what I'm doing right now. Like I could be able to go further with my counseling skills, but then in a senior setting in the long-term care is more like calm, and I could be able to have some, even though I'm so busy all the time, I still have some time to talk with my team members and then to talk to the family members and build a relationship with my resident. But then when you become a private counselor, more towards the money, at the same time doing more clinical practice, you'll see with all the documentation, with all the CBT skill or the other counseling skills that you apply there, you have to be really cautious of how everything that you say is really like mentally like drain you down. Well, but I also respect everyone like choosing to be a social worker, and always suggest people to try different stuff before they settling in one field, because try not to narrow down your like being only maybe focusing on seniors. You can do a bit more broad instead of only seniors, so that you have more chances to work in different places instead of just focusing in one place.
For sure. I see that we're kind of running out of time, so I'm kind of blazed through. I'm not going to ask some of these questions. I'll just like settle on for the final question. So like, do either of you have any parting advice to potential social workers or potential social service workers, whether they're looking for jobs or just anything, just like a message kind of?
Similar to what like Eva said, like to build like your experience and your opportunities to like grow, like don't just like settle, like try to experience with different other like populations. I think this could like help with like interacting with different populations and how to like approach with assisting and helping them. And yeah, I think just like building your knowledge and expertise is also like parting advice that I would suggest.
For me, I would say trying to build your own connection when you're in college, university, so that you could be able to have more connection. Sometimes connection helps you to get a job, instead of doing more school. And also never be afraid to try new stuff, because this is one of the way that you could be able to know what you really want and what really fits you. I also see there's a question, I think Irene was asking, what is the most comprehensive Canadian social work textbook to buy? I have been in school for 7 years for my bachelor and my master's. To be honest, I do not recommend any social work textbook because it's so expensive. Each year, almost every single year, they change an edition. Like you just have to rebuy that textbook for over $100. I would say if you go on a more clinical practice in Master of Social Work, you would wanted to keep the textbook in the counseling one. Like if you go for CBT or narrative therapy in either York or York T, they would offer you a textbook that you could be able to buy. If it's more useful course in York University, I would say I think you should pay attention to the statistic or the research method one. So it will help you to, if you wanted to do a bit more research after you graduate, it helps you and go to the master too. Then the second question is that fair to say that most job or posting nowadays require or needs a Master of Social Work, Bachelor, or SSW? And how do you feel about that? So for Master of Social Work, definitely you could be able to try different stuff. I'll say more clinical approach, like working in the hospital, in a school, it would require a Master of Social Work. But in a long-term care, SSW, BSW would okay. It depends on the agency too. Sometimes if you see a job posting, they wouldn't require that much, but then if they wanted to have someone to do a counseling, they would want someone to have the MSW. But for bachelor and like BSW and SSW, they just want someone to have like a coordination skills, like program coordination, referral, like those you don't need so much. I would say it depends on the nature, just like the job that Kat is having. She doesn't really require to be a RSSW or RSW to do her job. Like youth workers, some people, they came from sociology or psychology, they don't even have to register for SSW. But then the earlier that you register in OC, SSW, the Ontario College of Social Worker and Social Service Worker, so in some of the job posting, they would require you for a good 5 years, like 3 to 5 years good standing. So if you wanted to be like go upper and trying to accumulate your experience in social work, I would definitely recommend you to do that. And if you start to work as a social worker and with your license of OCS SSW, you could be able to get your tax back too, like a bit of refund, not much for sure. And the last question is, which website do you recommend for social worker job hunting? So to be honest, I'm like those non-mainstream. So I will go for like a Indeed. Some people will go for Job Bank, but then I found that Indeed is pretty updated, and also go to the agency that you are interested in, to the website directly and find a career. So hospital usually they will post it in the career page and they update pretty good too. But community agency, it does take time for them to update their website. So I suggest you to use Indeed if you really want to. And trying to have a template in your hand, like resume and also cover letter template for you to do your job search and also apply application.
How about, do you know about Charity Village?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah.
with a bird, like a hummingbird or something.
Would that be another one you'd recommend, or would you just pretty much stick with Indeed?
Haven't been in a while, but when I finished my practicum and I was looking for positions, I was looking at Charity Village as well to see like what options that I could like apply to. I'd also recommend maybe like LinkedIn. A lot of my friends are are actually on it to like see like any like job positions. And you can also see like organizations like their pages as well. Like they have like job positions. You can see like if they're like hiring for specific like job positions that they have available. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much, Eva, for answering all the questions that that were in the chat. we are out of time. So if you have any further questions, be sure to direct them to our email, which I'll show up in a bit. So I just want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. Thank you to our guest speakers, and hopefully you guys managed to get something useful from this. Be sure to stay connected with us. You can call us at the number you see on the screen for any questions you may have. Definitely email us at info@onehubgrowth.com. Also check out our website for any further other programs we might have. And if any events are being hosted in person, they are going to be in Markham.